So we are here. This is called my Tuck Talks. I basically just get with friends and talk. Um, Nothing about anything bad or just we just talk about you, give you your flowers, your roses, whatever you call them, and celebrate you as a friend. Uh, so starting off going into this, I was just doing my normal research. I've been a fan of yours, bro, since I'm from that. I'm 43. So I'm from that Yo MTV Raps era, that Step the Sonic, that BDP, I know that. So when I first heard Call Me D Nice, not self-destruction, but self-destruction and all the different things that you did, I was a fan. Never would have thought in a million years I'd end up linking with you and becoming a friend of yours via cannabis. And that's something else that aligns when I do these talks. 99% of people that I've met that I'm doing these with, I've met via cannabis. Yep. And it had nothing to do with selling it or anything. It just so happened to be, I was with Dennis Scott via cannabis, and he was at a party. He said, KB gonna be there, D Nice gonna be there. I'm like, D Nice, the producer, he like, yeah. I'm like, I'm coming. Met you there, been cool ever since.
Cool ever since, bro.
Like literally, like day one, introduced, was cool, and just stayed in contact. And I don't know if you ever knew how much of a fan of yours I am and still am, but I can tell you, like, bro, I've been a fan of yours forever. And we'll get into it, but just to see everything that you've done, to see everything that you continue to do, and then to basically, like I said, we'll get into it, you kind of like, for lack of better words, revamped your whole shit in the last 3 years, and it's been like life-changing. And I've watched it change your life, and you change other people's lives. So kicking off with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for everything that you continue to do. You're inspiration to me every day that I live on this planet, and I thank you for that. Like, for real, for real.
Wow, man, those were some beautiful words, and like you said, man, we became friends instantly. And I remember the party.
Yep.
You know, we're in the Bay Area.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I remember the party. We were outdoors.
Yep.
And it was a whole vibe. And when we chatted, it was like, nah, this dude is cool, man. I was like, first of all, you got the perfect name for what you're doing. And
Right.
I was like, wait, that's your real last name? Like, and you know what I'm saying? Like you've always just been like this cool dude. And you know, we were able to converse before the pandemic. But what I will say is there was this kind of joy that I felt every time you signed online and would listen for hours. You know what I mean? Because in my mind, I started to not just visualize like other people, but it was like my friends were in there. You were in there from the beginning. You're in it from the beginning up until now. You know, here we are 3 years later, the world is reopened. And, you know, I still go on every now and then, play sets, and I always see you supporting and sharing love and chatting with people. So I want to say thank you and give you your flowers, even though I know flowers is your business. You know what I mean? So I'm sure you got enough flowers. But no, you've always been just a kind dude, bro. You know, and honestly, to just be a part of Tuck Talks was like, yo, when you asked me, I was like, nah, I'm there. We just had to align the days because I haven't really been home much.
You're a busy person, so I know.
Yeah, you know, and I've always been busy in my career, you know, like I've always done everything that I love, but like this kind of busyness is for the right reason.
Yes.
You know, it's being busy because someone's booking me for a show is one thing, but like now, man, it's like I know what I represent, you know, and when you see comments where I can post something and people are like, bro, we're rooting for you. We're rooting for you, especially when black men can say that to each other.
Yes.
We're rooting for you. Yo,
Yes.
that's major. And it's very inspiring, you know?
Man, that's why I said you inspire. And it goes kind of to what I'm going to now with the mental health and black men expressing that we participate in making our mental health better and being a part of that. You are somebody who I look up to that does a lot regarding just around mental health and how it helps you going through the pandemic, starting DJ again, and like really like for me, like you said, I was there. We was locked in LA. In LA, supposed to come visit you when the pandemic and everything shut down.
Yep.
We were stuck in LA. And I remember you kicking it off. You're on the balcony, kicking it off, and just was playing music. I'm like, man, I'm in there. Let's do this. And then it's literally just turned into what it is now. For what it is now and everything that's come along with it, how has it affected your mental health, good, bad, or indifferent?
What I learned during the pandemic and just being like a man in general, like, I would internalize those feelings, even growing up an only child, you know, always been my own manager. The one thing that we thought was a sign of weakness was to be emotional,
Facts.
like in our industries. And when the world shut down and I was by myself, man, I learned to be more vulnerable, not because I thought it was helping someone else, but at the same time, it was helping me. You know what I mean? There were many nights when I would play sets. I played a set the other night and I was in tears because I still feel the amount of love that people give, and when you see, especially after losing like an iconic artist recently, like Tina Turner, you,
Facts.
you see, the other night when like Gladys Knight was on my IG live on her birthday and she's in there chatting with people, like that just made me emotional because it's like, as artists, man, we've always felt like you want to kind of protect your image and and like now I feel like my image is just being vulnerable and just being myself. And that actually helps me out. It's very therapeutic to just shed a few tears, to not just internalize. It doesn't mean that I'm not strong. I know I'm a very strong person, I'm strong-willed and I'm focused. But it's good to just for your mental health, man, to just be as open and honest, even with just yourself. Like that's a major thing, so during the pandemic I went through it was ebbs and flows with what I was feeling emotional. Some days I woke up, I was extremely like, I was just on this high, this natural high, feeling good. And there were some days when, man, it felt like the weight of the world was on my shoulders, not because of the pandemic, but it was also about, like where's this world going, and how are people going to continue to provide for their families? And that's a lot, especially on black people and black men. Like it was a tough time, and by the grace of God we made it through this pandemic. And I tell people all the time, club quarantine, or CQ as we call it, doesn't belong to me. It just doesn't represent me. It represents people. So when I do these shows, I try to make sure that we do, you know, panel discussions on mental health and wellness and panel discussions on financial literacy, because those were the things that were really affecting our communities.
Facts.
So a lot of us didn't, we weren't going to see a therapist, or we didn't have financial advisors, and it was very important for me to kind of be a reflection of what we all were experiencing, because you watch my life,
Yeah.
you know, really for 2 years. This last year we've kind of been opening out and moving around, but for 2 years, my life was on display.
Literally.
And that was like the perfect time to show, to just be fearless when it comes to expressing emotions and to talk about it and share my love of music and community and people and the older generation and the younger generation. It was like all of these worlds were colliding. It was a great time to just show that vulnerability. And I feel like, at least for me, I feel like I became a better person. And I hope that other people learn, or, learn in their own rights how to be better people and to be vulnerable, and to not just to internalize those feelings, man.
And I can't speak on every race or every person, but I'm a black man. And I know growing up as a black man, we were taught that strength meant you couldn't cry. Like you said, being strong to me goes with crying and being vulnerable to be able to do that. And like you said, like I've watched your lives and cried several times. The one that always gets me is when you play You Are the Sunshine by the Clark sisters.
Yes.
The time I heard you play it on the live. I hadn't heard that song in 35 years. That was one of my granny's favorite songs. Listened to it, knew it by heart, everything. So when you played it, it took me to a place. And I've been in those places several times on your lives, whether it be euphoric or whether it be not crying because of sadness, but just the music does that for me.
Yeah, man.
To have a person curating that and giving that, man, it's again, salute. Leads into parenting and being a father. You're a father of two beautiful girls. I have two girls out of my five. How has being a father throughout all this process, just in life in general, since you got an older and a younger, how has being a father helped groom you as a man, as a brother, as a businessman, just in general? How has being a father helped with any of those things?
Well, being a father, it has always been the most important thing to me. I grew up without a father, without a relationship. I don't want to say without a father. He's out there somewhere, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right. I
I had
understand.
no relationship with my father, so a lot of what I've learned as a man, as much as you know, it was from a lot of the television shows that I watched growing up, one specifically being the Cosby Show.
Hmm.
We may have our thoughts on his personal life, but what that show did was to show this image of black successful people and with successful families, and with them being professionals,
Right,
that that to me, the image that came from that show inspired me to, whenever I one day had kids, that I wanted to be that type of parent that they were
right.
showing on that show, to have like this great relationship with the kids and to be able. It wasn't about disciplining your kids with you know by beating on them.
Facts.
It was discipline, showing how you can discipline with love. And to be able to converse with your kids and have like this open dialogue. And I have two daughters, and there's a 14-year gap between the two.
Mhm.
I learned a lot from my oldest daughter by being her dad. Like, because it was all new to me.
Yep.
There were some mistakes that I made, some very selfish mistakes in terms of, like, there was a point in my life when no one was clapping for me, and I went into this depression, and you know I felt like I wasn't doing enough as a parent, but I just couldn't get out of this funk that I was in. And it took years for me to get out of that funk, where I was like, man, my life is not about music anymore. My life is to be this great parent. This child didn't ask to be here.
Facts.
She didn't ask for this. So to me, it was like, no, I got to do what's necessary to provide for my kids. Luckily for me, that I still had this fire inside of me that was always about creativity. And it was like a light bulb, like the switch went off, where I was like, wait a minute, creativity. Yes, it did show, the face of creativity for me was music and was being an artist.
Right.
But being an artist didn't stop or begin with just making music. I was like, wait,
True.
I'm a photographer. Wait a minute. I love photography. Oh, I love web development. Like, I can do all of these things. I don't have to be like one dimensional. And that's what I did. And it all directly goes back to the type of life that I wanted to, have for my kid. At the time, I only had one child, and that was like my motivation was like, no, my kid needs to see that you can be great at anything that you want to do. So,
Yes.
when,
Yes.
having a relationship and an open and honest relationship with my child, I talk about my failures, not just the wins. I got more failures than wins, to be honest with you. I mean, the one major win is that I'm still alive and I'm still here
Facts. Still
after
here.
experiencing what we did in the early days and in the 80s and 90s, and the ups and downs. I'm still here to talk about it. So that's like a major win. And to be
Facts.
able to have these conversations with not just my oldest daughter, but even with my youngest daughter. Like, my youngest daughter, I got a totally different relationship with her, where we spend a lot of time together, school drop-offs, pickups,
Same.
and the inspiration is just different now. It's like, with my oldest child, the motivation was, I got to be able to earn to take care of my kid. With my youngest daughter, the motivation is different. The motivation now is, I got to be able to get out here to do things where I can build generational wealth and be able to provide my kids with, something when I'm no longer here, whether
Yeah.
it's through inspiration or whatever I can leave them, financially, or,
Right.
and that's important to me now, so that's the difference between the two kids. And it's being a dad, like I said, man, I'm still learning every day.
It's no book. There's no book for this. There's no parenting is the one job that you get no instructions for. Now you do kind of you take what you like. My dad say all the time, take what you like from me and leave the rest. I come from the era I was given an opinion. We couldn't talk back. There was like, do as I say, not as I do. I didn't like that. So I deal with my kids. Like you said, I talk to my kids. We have open, not disrespectful conversations, because you will respect me, but open enough to where I'm gonna ask you your opinion. We didn't know about mental health when I was a kid. There was no such thing as mental health. I have mental health check-ins with my kids. You
Yes.
understand? Those are things that we didn't have when we was younger. So to be able to impart that on them, and like you said, just give them the tools. Like I got friends who most of my 99% of my friends are excellent fathers, whether they had a dad in their life or didn't. I hate the excuse that, oh, I didn't have a dad, so I don't know how to be one. I had a dad, didn't know how to be a dad. You understand what I'm saying? You learn on the clock. I got 5 kids. Each kid's gonna do stuff differently. So just I like to learn from my kids because they teach me a lot and keep me, able to talk to them. You know what I mean? So just sharing that and just knowing that you part of the brotherhood of the fathers, and just I knew that they did implore things into your life, but I wanted to hear it from you. You know what I mean? It's always
Yeah.
good to hear it from the parents. Like I just learned something recently. Like I know I love my kids, and I know my kids know I love them. But when's the last time I asked my kid, "Do you know why I love you? Do you know why you love me?" I never thought about asking them that until maybe about a week and a half ago. I heard it on a therapist group I was in. I'm like, damn, I never thought about that. Like, well, let me ask my kids. I'm like, oh no, Dad, we know you love me. I said, well, can you tell me why? And they told me, and it was like, all right, cool. Never did that before. So, like you said, it's something you can always learn no matter what. And I feel like I can always learn from everybody, from my kids, from people around me, just everybody I come in contact with, I feel like I can learn from. So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, that's actually a great question. I think that's a question that I'm gonna, pose to my kids later on, later on this evening. Like that's a very important question.
yeah, because we know how we feel and love, but these kids is the next in line. They're gonna be the next us. So we want to make sure we giving them all the right tools, or the tools that we see that we think are right to move on and go forward. So thank you for that, bro.
Yeah, and before we
Go
we
ahead.
move on from this the topic of being a father, the one thing that I also had to learn was like, the complaining about not having a dad in your life is actually it's a valid complaint.
Mhm.
There were times when, I didn't even know how to tie my tie, you know what I mean? And I was about to do inaugural ball for President Obama, and I was sitting in the hotel room, in DC, literally in tears because I couldn't figure out how to tie a tie, and I had to learn on YouTube, you know that was one thing. That was one of the feelings that I was having, that I had back then, and I was
Right.
very angry over that. Like, man, those are some of the things that, as
That's
men,
fair. That's fair.
parents, you pass down, but specifically your dad. Those are things you learn from your dad.
Yep.
Having that conversation while you're both getting dressed, and it's like dad's like, hey, at least what my idea
Right,
of
right. Well, you watch the Huxtables,
yeah.
so
So, but then I also had to learn that, not all fathers are great fathers. And, maybe the blessing for me was that I didn't have a father in my life because
mhm.
knowing the type of person he was, I didn't take on those traits. Like I became my own person, and I had to learn, through mistakes that were made on how to be a dad. And that's something that I'm extremely proud of.
Hell yeah. That's all we can ask for and do with our kids. That's dope, bro.
Yep.
So going back a little bit, just with your hip hop history, you produce Self Destruction, right?
Yes.
Okay, thought so. I just listened to Glory for the first time in a long time.
Oh, wow.
Preparing
Took
for
you
this,
back.
right? So the reason why I bring both of
17.
those, yes, the reason why I bring both of those up, when I was rapping at 16, 17, I was highly political, highly about, the just what was going on in our community. It wasn't about rapping about drugs and all that stuff. It was about how do we get over that and, do something different. Your music has been always like that. Like you've always been, I don't want to say political, but you've been about us being better as a people. Where does
True.
that come from?
I mean, it just comes from that time that I, grew up, and also I had a really one of my best friends who's still here. He's always on my IG when I go live. He played a major role in helping to shape me as a young man in terms of like rap music. Not necessarily saying, "Hey, I'm gonna write the song for you," nothing like that. Whenever I would write something,
Mhm.
I would say it to him, and he, dude would be like, "Man, you can't say that." Because he was older. He was like, he was always like, no, you can't say that. People are going to come down on you if you say it that way. And then it forced me to learn how to say what I was experiencing to
Mhm.
just articulate it in a different way. When I was 17, like, yeah, I was into girls. I was into, what was going on in the hood. Let's be
Right,
real. The dudes
right,
that
of
were in the
course,
hood,
of course.
on slinging, you know what I'm saying? Like those dudes have the fly cars. Like I was into that, I wanted that too. You know what I'm
Right,
saying? Like there's nothing wrong with having those desires, but it was just about how you're going to get there. How are we going to get to that point to achieve those goals also without hurting people, like
Right.
I don't talk about things that I haven't experienced, like I went to DC once with one of my friends who was making moves in the streets. And when I, went to this, it was called the Paradise Projects in DC. And when I went in there with him, it looked like 50% of the people were crackheads. And for me, that was me seeing like directly right in front of me the effects of drugs, you know what I
Yep.
mean? Of selling drugs to people,
Yep.
selling crack cocaine in particular to people,
Yep.
and I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. Like when you're a young dude on the corner and you're doing hand to hand, you
Mhm.
don't really see what the effects are when someone goes
Yes.
home. But to be in an entire community and to see that, it was like, whoa, I don't want to be that type of person. You know what I mean? Like, so I focused on music. I was like, that's where I'm going. Like, I'm doing this. I don't want to be over here. I'm gonna focus on that, and so those stories that I told, were like direct, reflections of the experiences that I had. Self-destruction was a real one to me because I was seeing what was happening. But when I
True.
wrote my lyrics on that song, not only did I produce it, but also I was a featured artist on the
Yep.
song. My lyrics were coming from the perspective of an 18-year-old kid. That's who I was, and and it was extremely important. A song like Glory, which was totally inspired by the movie Glory starring Denzel Washington,
Mm.
that came from the movie studio reaching out. They wanted a song for it. And at the time I was signed to Jive Records, and they already knew I was producing a lot of the BDP stuff, or some of it. And I don't want to say a lot of it, but I was producing some of the songs, and I was kind of influential in some of the songs that I didn't work on, just because based on my opinion I would
Right.
tell KRS these things. But the single Glory, like I said, it was inspired by the movie, and it was all based on what that film represented. Like I had no idea about like, black people in the military, back then on the front line, during the civil wars. And like, I didn't know any of that, like they didn't
Right.
talk about that in school, like, so for me, a lot of what I learned, you know, during my younger days were all based on the music that I heard, the rappers that I listened to. I mean, I was in a group with one of the most prolific rap
Yeah.
artists ever.
Yeah.
Like, and he, I didn't know who Madam CJ Walker was, and I wasn't using a straightening comb. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I didn't know
Right.
about these things. It's like 17. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
but he rapped about that, and because he rapped about it, and I'm always a curious person, then I would go and research it. And I would, thank
Nice.
God, we didn't have like, Google back then, you know what I mean? But like, thank God for books in the library and the books in the neighborhood, like the bookstores in the neighborhood who had these books on like African American achievements. I would then like read up on some of these things. And then I was just totally inspired to kind of have balance with the music. Like, I don't want to ever be just political. Like,
Right.
that's not who I
Right.
am,
Right.
because I like having fun too. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, I like going to clubs, or but I
Yeah.
also love reading books,
Yes.
you know. Um, and that's always been important to me, to just have like this great balance between
Mm.
uh, positivity and still having some fun with it.
Bro, that's so, like I said, I did my research, always coming up in the interviews. I've, known about you forever. I never heard that. And it's literally me. We 10 years apart, but that's literally how I moved. Like I can be street adjacent. I
Yeah,
can look what's going on out there, but I don't have to be out there. I found a better way for me to still be close, but not be in, and then still be able to talk about positivity and see what's going on without putting myself in the negative area. And that's just so dope to hear that that's what you was on, because that's literally how I've lived my life. I have plenty of people I grew up with bloodline that's killers, dope dealers, all the, but I was a nerd. But I was also, I like to hang out. I like to kick it. I like to go to parties. I like the ladies. Like, why is only street dudes able to do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I don't want to be a street dude. I want to go to work. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? I want to go to work and hang out. And I was able to do that. So to hear you say that is like, even though I got my confirmations, I always love affirmation and confirmation. That's a confirmation. What I've been doing all my life is the right way to go, because that's what you've been doing. And it's somebody who I look up to and what you continue to do, what you're going to lead into now, is dope to hear that that's how you came up and did your thing. I appreciate that, bro. Like for real, for real.
Thank you.
So, like I said, we're 10 years apart. You approaching your 53rd birthday next month or this month? It's this month.
June next month. So
yeah, coming up.
3 weeks. Yes.
How has it been? Because again, you've never not been around. But how has it been like expanding your portfolio after 50 and like really jumping into all these? You've always been a businessman. Like I knew when you first started doing photography, I remember all of that. Yep, but I'm saying in the last 3 to 5 years, how has that been like re-becoming Derrick Jones? You know what I mean? How has that been?
Yeah, no, I was I posted something today this morning before school drop off, and I was like, man, I gotta write. It was on my mind about fear and the fear of the unknown and the fear of asking questions and the fear of like, the fear of traveling, the fear of having new experiences. And like, I wrote about that earlier today, like the fear of investing has been because I didn't know anything about it. And I was also, as you get older, I became like fearful of asking the question because I didn't want to seem like I didn't know it. Like, hey, how do you invest?
And that's a problem. We gotta get past. I didn't mean to cut you off, but we have to, as us, we got to be willing to ask questions because we don't know what we're not told. Like,
absolutely. And that's the thing. I had to get over that, of the fear of embarrassment of like not knowing something. And the moment that I got over it, I called up a guy who I know by the name of Troy Carter. He's a huge investor, from the music industry, manager. I called him. I was like, bro, I have some questions. I know this is your world, but I would love some advice. And that guy said, yo, come to my office. When you're in LA, come over to my office and let's have the talk. And he honored his word. I went over to his office and he had his offices were out here in LA across from the Sony lot, and went over there. And I was like, wow, like, man, his offices were beautiful. He was staff. Then he started talking about investing. And that just opened my mind up, like, whoa, some of those things are extremely aggressive, but man, it was what I was interested in, technology, getting involved in tech and getting involved in like, I'm involved in everything, bro, and it's been, such a blessing to get involved and to take chances. Another person I learned from was Nas. Nas and I we had a show together about a year and a half ago, and we're in the dressing room, and I did ask Nas. Nas is a huge investor. He has his own fund, and I was like, bro, like, wait, how did you know, or were you ever scared? And he was like, bro, you get into it, it can be, you can be, you can lose too, you know what I mean? But like,
yes,
it's important to take some risks, and when he told me that, he told me like, hey, look, at the time he had a really big deal that went through that he invested in over 10 years ago. You know what I mean? 10 years ago. And then, it became something that was just huge for him. Probably his biggest investment that he was so unsure about, and because of the conversations that I had with Nas and my guy Troy, and then some of my other friends that are investors, I was like, man, I'm gonna do this. So like now I'm invested in multiple things. It's no one specific category. I'm invested in cereal,
Marcel, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, wine, Marcel. I got a new one that's that we're about to launch. I'm not even gonna tell you yet, man. But
I was just gonna say, what's next? Come on, man.
I'll be able to tell you in about a month and a half. The deal I already signed off on it, but we're doing something extremely specific in terms of like the launch and the announcement of it. But like, I'm in, like I said, snacks, plant-based snacks, and technology. I'm in Stripe. I'm in all types of things, man, that I just took a chance, and said, hey, this feels good. I invest in things that feel good to me. I'm in one, man, the big homie Hove was involved in, and when I found out he was involved in this one food-based business, it made me happy to be able to, reach out to him and ask his thoughts on it, and like now I'm in the space where I can actually converse with my friends about it and say, hey, what are your thoughts on it? And is this a good look? Is this a good move? Is this wise? And I've been extremely blessed. And because of that, it's important to me to be that blessing to some young kids,
Yes.
to some young, black and brown boys and girls as they're coming up, to be able to say you can come from hip hop and you can be this, but you can also be on this side too.
Facts.
We don't have to just be one thing. That's the beauty of this world, man, and the beauty of the life we have. We don't have to just be one thing.
That's so true. And that's like how I live my life. You met me via being a dispensary owner.
Yep.
I've worked, detailed cars for 30 years. I work for Alameda County, work for the city of Oakland. I type 90 words a minute currently. I know everything about Microsoft. Like, I'm a public speaker. Like, we coming up as us, being us, you have to figure out a way. I was taught that you have to hustle, but not illegal. It don't have to be illegal. Working and investing, that could be a hustle in a good way. But a lot of us are trained to believe that we can only do one thing. And it's like, no, like I think this is going to be a good conversation because every time we talk is always good, but you just gave me even more confirmation and more like boost that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, bro. Like, this is like, I'm glad we're talking. You do a lot of investing now and you're doing whatever. If anything comes up cannabis, call your boy.
Yes.
And it's not about take Blunt some more out of it, take me out of it. What I'm noticing in the space is a lot of us are getting in the space, celebrities, NBAs, whatever, and not being educated. What I can lend to the space is the education on the way to move around in the space. Nothing against Burner, but everyone goes with him, and it's not really no generational wealth being made. We got some flour, we got a pop up, it's cool. We need to get in this space to make generational wealth for our kids. And that's not being done because we're undereducated. We don't know, haven't asked the right questions. I want to be able to be put in a place to where I don't know the Jay-Z's, but I do know the D-Nices. You know what I'm saying? How do I pivot that into working with these stars that have the money, that have the know-how, but just don't have the actual education, but really want to be in it? And if you can help me any way with doing that, this ain't no plea or plug because I talked to you this offline, but if there's any way to connect with stars to help educate them the right way to move in this space, let me know, bro. Like, for real.
No,
Because
absolutely. I mean, look, it's a space that I'm going to eventually play in. Look, it's business. It is going to be generational business. And the unfortunate side for it is that a lot of people of color, period, have been arrested. Doing
like
time. That can't get their license because they went to jail for possession or selling of marijuana, and now it's legal. So it is important to educate people on how to do this the right way, and also to give some of these people a shot.
Yes, and it's not just about a lot of people that I talk to. The first thing they ask is, how do I grow and sell? And it's like, dude, unless you want to be in debt, if you got 3 to 5 million to play around with in about 3 to 5 years to not make any of that back, then come on, you can grow and sell all you want. But just like you said, there's marketing, there's tech that we need in this space. There's so much other things you can do that can make money right now. That's like, why would you want to grow and sell? Everyone can do that. You know what I'm saying? But I can tell you the ways to move around. If you do want to still do that, come on down. But it just makes no sense that we want to throw money at something and we don't have no education on it. It's just baffling to me how we're trying to move in the space. And if I can help with any of that, keep me in mind, let me know.
Absolutely. Will do, brother.
What's next that you can talk about? I just seen Detroit is coming for CQ. We're going to try to make that. For the rest of the fun, we try to make every CQ we can. We support this brother. Like, he makes a whole experience. Maybe I'll get on one of those panels one day to do some education.
No. Now that I know that you do public speaking, that's important. Because you are a part of the community. You know what I mean? Like, so that's actually important. I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad that you mentioned that earlier. What's next, man? Like, I'm still out here doing the shows, and I try to like curate. Obviously, I don't do enough CQ shows everywhere because I do a lot of private events, and that's been beautiful. But the shows that I do are they're fun, they're incredible, they're emotional. we got Carnegie Hall coming up on July 12th. We have um Detroit. I haven't announced where it is, but
Right. It's
a lot
coming.
of people know it's coming. And a lot of people have already figured out where the
Where it's gonna
spot
be.
is.
'Cause we know you. We know what kind of vibe you go. So it only gonna be in certain places. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
yeah. So we're doing that. And then I haven't announced it yet, but I did a deal to do CQ Live at the Kennedy Center Opera House. That's in October. So it's like three back-to-back days though, which is going to be incredible, man.
Bro, congratulations,
That
blood.
that one I'm excited about all of them,
But
but
nigga, I had goosebumps sitting here for you talking about the shit you're doing from when you was on, excuse my language, your fucking balcony.
yes, I kept
Fucking
saying this is what I wanted to do.
like,
I was
come on. I was like, you gonna do it, bro. You gonna do it.
I was
So
like, man, when the world reopens, this is what I want, man. I was very specific.
yeah,
I was like, man, I'm not doing any shows until I could do the Hollywood Bowl.
football, first one.
That- And
Yes,
that
sir.
was the first one. And that was like, to me, what that represented was like, wow, like you can put something out in the universe and manifest it,
Have blood. Like I've witnessed it personally. Like, so that's why I tell you, I tap in with you all the time, check on you, see how your mental is, see how you're doing, see how the kids are, because I genuinely appreciate you as a friend. A lot of people, stars in the game or whatever, they get a bad rap. No, they're human. These are human people. You just got to get to know them. You know what I'm saying? I know two good dudes. You the original D Nice, but my other boy that do side collective to make all the shoes. He's the other D Nice that we call D Nice. Both individuals are just super, super dope, always working all the shit, but people would think that they might be a certain way. And it's like, no, they're human, dog. Like they just good people. You are a genuine, good fucking person. I like you didn't have to befriend me. We didn't have to
Well,
be cool. We didn't have to talk. We hit it off and been cool. And talked to my kids about this the other day because so you seen the 5 on the thing that I've been promoting. We had did it, everything was cool. I ended up getting into it with Yuck Mouth. Well, he got into it with me, whatever. And I use that to like tell my kids, like, people gonna be mad at you for doing whatever they're gonna be mad at you for. And you just gotta keep being willing to work through whatever and show that you here to do the work. You can't be worried about what they're mad at or what they talking about or whatever. And it's like, keep being positive. The positive people gonna be around you. If you be negative, the negative gonna be around you. You're somebody who everything that I've seen from the time I first heard about you in '88, I was 8 years old. Everything about you has been positive and how you can remain positive. Even if you got down, we didn't see it because you was always positive. You was always preaching positivity. And to do that currently, to be in a pandemic, we're all locked in the house. You providing us a fucking disco to dance in from your phone, getting cut off because at the time you couldn't play music for long. So you getting all that together. You know what I'm saying? To see all that happen, to see you say on the thing, when I do this, I'm going to Hollywood Bowl. For them tickets to come out and we sat in line online to buy those tickets for that. Yeah, bro. Yeah, man. Like, nah, I know you know what you've done, and I'm sure you hear it from your real people and from the fans or whatever. But nigga, I'm telling you, you've done a lot of inspiration for my life in general, but within the last 5 years, like,
it's beautiful, bro.
so yeah. So with that, we got your next up. Anything you want to shout out? Where can they find you, follow you, all that? I mean, we know what it is, but shout out.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at dnice9. um,
we know who you are, but we gotta do it. We gotta do
no,
it.
no, what I will say is this, man. I think it's important for people to always look out for each other. Like I had a situation last night where I was having this conversation with my buddy, and I told him like, oh, my one of my friends wants to use this for something, but no, I'm protecting this. And then my guy was like, yo, never forget who you are. You've always been a person to want to help uplift people. And in that moment, as he said that, I was like, whoa, it hit me. I was like, yo, you're absolutely right. Not everything requires thinking from this whole business perspective.
Yes.
You do have to find balance in one, also making sure that you take care of your business and protect yourself, but also lead with love and be in a position to like help uplift other people and your brothers, and that's something that has always been extremely important to me. But sometimes you can lose sight of that because the world is going and you're constantly moving.
You get
And
fuck boys who end up making you feel like you don't want to do that no more. You like, fuck.
I mean, I didn't want to say that part, but like, yes, absolutely.
Like and it's just the truth. But like you said, I lead with love first. And I
Yep.
don't do things expecting nothing in return. I do it because I'm leading with love. I'm doing it because it's what's supposed to be done. So like perfect. This is perfect how we get into closing this. When I met you, I just met you as this is D Nice, super cool. Hey, how you doing? I'm a big fan. If you ever need weed when you come to Oakland, let me know. I'm the guy.
Yep.
This is no preconceived. No, I'm finna get with next to D and we finna do nothing. This man just said, oh, good to know you do public speaking and teaching all the shit. I'm like, yeah, I do. So that connection may lead to me coming to talk as something that I support. Like, come on, blood.
Absolutely. Not even may. It is going to. Like, it's not even may lead. That's where it's going, because I didn't know you were into it. So like, even when you said, yo, I want to interview you on Tuck Talks, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know you were into that, like, so I came on specifically for
I'm a
my
pivot
with you. But then now I'm like, oh, this is a great conversation, man. So I appreciate you.
Person, bro. Like, thank you. Cause I know with the cannabis industry, with it not being legal, there's only so much I can do. But I'm a hustler. I know how to work. I love to work. I can't just sit here all day and sell weed. There's too much other things that I could be doing and could be, using my platform to do. Why not do that? Do I want to interview people? No, not really. But there's conversations that need to be had that people need to hear about. So go ahead and do that. Learn how to interview. Get the right equipment. Like, hold on. Go get your shit. So so you're doing it the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like the money I got from teaching 2 students this past quarter, I teach cannabis operations. The money I got for them 2 students, I bought the shit I needed to be able to do the next phase of my career. You know what I'm saying? And I'm watching from people like you. You know what I mean? So thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Time. Thank you for what you're doing as a father, as a Black man, for the community, just in general. I love you, like in real life. We got our eye game, we got our beards, we got our, you feel me? But just in general, you a good dude. Keep doing what you're doing. And keep leading with love. And that's it. Another Tuck Talk has been done. I'm gonna stop recording and then tell you bye off the camera. Hold on, let me stop. All right. Stop. Yeah.